World War II, just hearing those words brings up pictures in our minds, doesn't it? Pictures of tanks rolling through French fields, bombers flying over Germany, and fierce battles on Pacific islands. We all know the main story. The rise of bad guys like Hitler, the quick war in Europe, and the atomic bombs that ended it. People often say this was a time when the best people fought for what was good in the world. But what if I told you there were even bigger, crazier plans during that war? Secret plans so big they could have changed everything. These plans were made in secret meetings and most never happened. But they were always there, behind every battle and every fight. Today we're looking at these secret plans of World War II. We'll see how they could have changed the world. These weren't just silly ideas, folks. These were serious plans, some with every detail worked out, that were really considered. We're not talking about small changes, but huge, risky plans that could have changed who won the war and changed the lives of millions of people. Get ready to look at some top-secret stuff like Operation Sea Lion, when Japan almost invaded Australia, and the plans to kill Hitler. These are stories of big plans and big risks, and they show us a world that could have been very different. It's 1940. France, which was supposed to have the strongest army in Europe, has been crushed by the Nazis. The British army barely escaped from Dunkirk, running to boats while bombs fell. Across the English Channel, Winston Churchill tells his country they will keep fighting even though things look really bad. The future of Europe is uncertain. This is when Hitler orders the invasion of Great Britain. The plan is called Operation Sea Lion. Imagine, instead of the famous white cliffs of Dover, you see a huge attack from the sea, bigger than anything before. German soldiers, after winning in Europe, land on British beaches and fight the British people. We remember the Battle of Britain fought in the air, but imagine a land war too, fought in every street and field across England. Operation Sea Lion wasn't a small attack. It was a full-blown invasion meant to crush the British and make them surrender. For this, the Germans planned to land more than 90,000 soldiers right away, with tanks, big guns and their air force. They used everything, barges, ferries, even riverboats to cross the English Channel. But the English Channel, though beautiful, is also dangerous. Strong currents, unpredictable weather, and the British Navy made crossing the Channel very difficult. Even if the Germans landed, they would have trouble getting supplies to their soldiers while being attacked. And then there was the Royal Air Force. They were outnumbered, but they fought bravely and shot down many German planes during the Battle of Britain. Their courage stopped the Germans from controlling the air, which they needed for a successful invasion. The German Air Force, used to winning easily, was now losing many planes. The skies above Britain started to become safer. By September 1940, with the German Air Force struggling and the British Navy ready to attack, Hitler decided to postpone Operation Sea Lion. It was never tried again, and Britain survived. But what if the German Air Force had won? What if the weather had been good, the seas calm, and the British Air Force couldn't fly? If Operation Sea Lion had worked, everything would be different. Britain would have been controlled by the Nazis. The United States, which didn't want to join the war, would have had to decide. Fight a war that seemed impossible to win, or let the Nazis control Europe. The whole world would be different. We can't know for sure what would have happened, but thinking about these what-ifs helps us understand history better, to see how close things were to going another way, and to admire the brave people who fought even when it seemed hopeless. The story of Operation Sea Lion shows us that even in dark times there is always hope, and even when things seem certain, brave people can change the future. When we think of World War II in the Pacific, we think of island battles and fighting in the jungle. But there was a bigger, more daring plan: Japan's plan to invade Australia. Imagine, it's 1942. Japan has quickly taken over many places in Asia, like Hong Kong, Singapore, and the Philippines. The British are losing, and the United States is still recovering from the attack on Pearl Harbor. During this time, Japanese leaders started thinking about invading Australia. Australia was huge and important for both sides. For the Allies, it was a base, a source of supplies, and a connection to the United States. For Japan, taking Australia would hurt the Allies and give them a base to attack more places, maybe even the US. The plan was a big attack on important cities like Darwin, Brisbane, and Sydney. The Japanese Navy, after its early wins, would protect the landings, and the Japanese army would lead the attack. But this plan had big problems. The distance between Japan and Australia was huge, thousands of miles of ocean. Getting supplies to an army so far away while fighting the Allies would be incredibly hard. Japan's ships were already busy and wouldn't be able to support a long fight so far away. Also, Australia itself is huge, rough and difficult. The outback, with its heat, little water and long distances, is hard even for experienced desert fighters. The Japanese, used to jungles and rice paddies, would have a hard time. But the biggest reason the plan failed was because the war changed. The Allies won a big battle at Midway in June 1942, which hurt the Japanese Navy badly. Without control of the sea, Japan couldn't invade Australia, so the invasion plan, which was a real threat, was dropped. Australia was safe and helped the Allies win the war, with its soldiers fighting bravely in many places. But the story of the invasion plan shows us how close the Allies were to losing in the Pacific. If Japan had attacked in early 1942, the war and Australia's future would be very different. It's a scary thought that shows how small things can change who wins and loses in a war. Chapter 3. To Kill a Führer. The plots to assassinate Hitler. Few things about World War II are more interesting and debated than the plans to kill Hitler. It makes us think about right and wrong, and what happens when we try to change history. Imagine it's 1944, the war is starting to turn against Germany, but many people are dying. The world is learning about the Holocaust and hates Hitler. Some Allied leaders, some Germans who didn't like Hitler. And even some people close to Hitler started thinking, what if we could end the war by killing Hitler? The most famous plan is Operation Valkyrie, where German officers tried to take control of the government and kill Hitler. These men, wanting to save Germany, risked everything to change history. But the Allies also had plans to kill Hitler, secret plans that no one would know about. Operation Foxley was one plan where British soldiers would sneak into Hitler's mountain home and shoot him. Imagine a single soldier hiding in the mountains, aiming at the man who controlled the lives of millions. The future of the world depended on him. Thinking about killing someone is complicated. Hitler was evil and killed millions of people. Killing him seems like the right thing to do. But killing someone, even someone bad, can be dangerous and cause unexpected problems. Some historians say killing Hitler might have made the war last longer. Hitler was like a god to some people, and his death might have made them fight even harder. Others say Hitler's bad decisions hurt Germany, and removing him might have led to peace earlier. We can never know for sure. History isn't something we can change, but thinking about these what-ifs helps us understand how complicated history is, the difficult decisions in war, and the bravery of those who fought against evil. The plans to kill Hitler, whether they would have worked or not, show us how strong the human spirit is and how people are willing to fight for what's right, even when it's very dark. We've looked at some secret plans from World War II, and one thing is clear: the past isn't set in stone. It's made of many choices, decisions, and even luck. These are just a few of the plans that never happened. Each one is a big what-if in history. Operation Sea Lion, the Japanese invasion of Australia, the plots to kill Hitler. If any of these had happened, the world would be very different. Imagine Britain losing, Australia controlled by Japan, or Hitler dying earlier. It's amazing to think how close things were to going another way. But that's what's interesting about what-if history. It shows us that the world we live in isn't fixed. It's the result of many choices, some brave and some foolish. If just one of these plans had worked, everything would be different. So when you think about the past, remember that small things can have big effects. The past is a different place, but it's important to learn about it so we can think about all the possibilities of what if.